Hey everyone, I'm Martin Aguinis, and I'm a marketing manager here at Google. And this is Tim Sneath, and he's a product manager at Google. And we're both on the Flutter team. And today we're going to talk about how Flutter is redefining mobile app strategy. Now, we're going to do that in 3 sections. So first, we're going to cover the general mobile landscape that we see today. Then we're going to talk about what Flutter is and how it fits into that current mobile landscape. And finally, we're going to give you use cases of people and companies that are using Flutter and how you can get started today. So let's start with the mobile landscape. And I want to start out with a staggering statistic. And that's that the global app economy is growing from $1.31 trillion to $6.35 trillion from 2016 to 2021. That's an overall growth of 385%, or a 37% year-over-year growth. Just to give you an idea of how much $6.35 trillion is, that's like saying every human being on the planet has to contribute $835. Or, given that there's a couple thousand people at Google Marketing Live here today, that's the same as saying every person in this conference would have to contribute $2.5 billion. Now, a big takeaway from this slide is a lot of people think that we've already peaked in the mobile industry, or that apps, downloads in the economy is not growing as much. But it's not like that. It's actually the opposite. We're just at the beginning, and it's going to continue to grow exponentially. And one of the reasons why it's going to continue to grow is, as you can see here, the downloads of apps are actually growing as well. So this chart shows the unique downloads every year of apps, and this is first-time downloads only. So this doesn't include reinstalls and updates to the apps. And again, this shows that in 2018 we have about 205 billion projected downloads, but by 2022 we're going to reach up to 258 billion. So clearly now is a really great time to be in the mobile space. But another study that was really interesting was we took the top 1,000 mobile apps compared to the top 1,000 mobile web properties. So basically, people experiencing apps on their phones versus people going on the mobile web. And in terms of engagement, in terms of minutes spent per person, we've seen a 10x growth in terms of minutes spent on mobile apps compared to the web. So clearly, when done right, apps are a great solution for engagement and to reach your customers. And many of you probably know that. We, as Google, a few years ago, did a study to try and understand what boosts app usage, though. What gets you to one of these top 1,000 apps? And all the findings were around eliminating friction with the client and the app. So things like making your life easier, having clear instructions for the app, being very consistent across multiple devices, and having great design. Those were trends that we've seen that really make apps stand out. But as we know, that's a lot easier said than done. Obviously, there are a lot of challenges associated with mobile. So to visualize these challenges, I wanted us to play a little game of roulette. So can someone just yell out a number, 0 through 36? 22. All right, I heard 22. So let's go ahead and spin the wheel and see what we get. The number called was 22.
Drum roll.
Drum roll, please. All right. 17. So you didn't get it right this time. But don't worry, you only had a 3% chance of getting that right. And in fact, according to AppsFlyer, only 3% of new mobile app users remain active after 30 days. In other words, if you grab an average app and 100 people download it, only 3 of them will probably be still engaged after a month. Now, this was really shocking to me. And that's not the only challenge, though, that you face today. Here are other challenges you might be very familiar with in mobile, right? So things like time to market, your fragmentation and your agility, having to hire, as well as being able to test new ideas. And finally, your costs of development, both in terms of time and money. Now, some of the technical reasons why these challenges exist are things like having to build for both iOS and Android, which also results you to have 2 completely different teams for development. But even if you only have to build one, iOS or Android app, you still have the coordination challenges with your developers and your designers. And there's also time to market. Every time you have to release a new update or ship a new version of the app, right, you have to kind of go through that whole process again. So here's one of Tim and I's favorite visualizations that kind of show this problem, the classic dilemma of mobile app development. On this, you can see the traditional way, which is what 80% or so of people do nowadays to develop mobile apps, which is do an iOS version and an Android version, completely separate. That requires 2 different development teams. It requires sometimes double the money. And obviously, the end result is a castle. But to get there, it's a maze. That maze represents a lot of the challenges we just listed. It represents things like, again, having to double up on your hiring, on your releases, on just getting to that end result. So what's the alternative? Well, a few companies and solutions have tried to implement cross-platform ways of doing this where it's just one code base. However, the quality isn't there for many reasons. Because you have to convert web code or one reason or another, the current solutions just don't offer a way to get that castle that goes straight without having to navigate the maze. So what do we do about that?
So here at Google Marketing Live, we're introducing Flutter. Flutter is a new way to build mobile applications. Flutter enables you to solve this problem of having to build applications twice by providing a single, unified framework that lets you build for iOS and for Android from a single code base. Unlike many solutions, Flutter allows you to build beautiful applications very quickly. We've optimized for things like productivity, for the quality of the application you produce. And we're going to show you some examples over the course of the next couple of minutes. When I think about what Flutter provides, I think about it in 4 different themes, or pillars, if you like. Beautiful, fast, productive, and open. So let's talk about each of those one by one. Firstly, beautiful. There's no point in building an application, a mobile application, if it doesn't deliver that quality of performance and that beauty of experience that your customers want. You're going to fall into that category of the 97% of apps or 97% of users that fall off your application tail. With Flutter, you never have to say no to your designer. Flutter is designed around the principle of creating these very rich, high-quality interfaces. Flutter paints every pixel on your screen, regardless of whether you're building for iOS or for Android. And so that lets you let your brand come out to life. You can restyle everything that you see on a Flutter application. You can restyle your buttons, your look and feel. You can create these applications that are very rich, very dynamic, very engaging to users. And several Flutter applications already have won awards for the quality and the beauty of their user interface. Secondly, Flutter is fast. This is a unique capability of Flutter. Flutter brings the power of a games engine to your mobile development. Flutter code gets compiled natively down to the machine code that your phone runs, regardless of whether it's iOS or Android. So when you build a Flutter application, you don't have to sacrifice performance to get an experience where you write once and run on both platforms. Flutter applications are 60 frames per second. They're accelerated, they're fast. They're also very productive to write. Flutter introduces this new capability for editing your code and manipulating your application as it's running on your phone. And we call this hot reload. Hot reload lets you take your application, deploy it to your device, and continue to manipulate it, iterating, maybe making changes to the look and feel of the application, experimenting with different code paths, and deploying those right to your phone as it's running in fractions of a second. This completely revolutionizes how developers build their applications. It lets you paint your application to life. It lets you test different ideas in real time on your phone. And our own developers, as they've built Flutter applications, have seen something like 3 times the productivity improvements when they're building Flutter applications because of this very real-time application development process. And when you think about that and then combine it with the fact that you only have to write once to target both platforms, you can see how Flutter changes the game for application development. Lastly, Flutter is open. Everything in Flutter is free. It's an open source project built by Google, but available without charge to be able to use in your own applications. Flutter has a very layered architecture. It's very easy to extend or adapt it for your needs. We have deep integrations into the underlying platform. And we have hundreds of third-party packages that you can embed into your application to support different needs that you have, whether they're hardware capabilities in the platform or integration with other systems or databases.
Great. So now that you know a little bit about what Flutter is, let's talk about who uses Flutter. And now there are organizations and developers all over the world using Flutter currently. But one of the first brands to use Flutter was Hamilton, the musical. This is a hit Broadway musical. It's almost impossible to get tickets ahead of time. They're very expensive. And it's wanted to launch an app and they were really time constrained. As you can see, David, one of the lead engineers, they only had 3 months to launch this. But instead of me telling you about this story, I'm going to show you a quick video.
Hamilton is one of the most talked about and best loved musicals, with shows on Broadway, in London, and around the country. We wanted something to make the show more accessible for our fans, so we wanted to develop an app to meet the needs of fans as we started to expand the brand. We turned to Posse, a New York-based development firm, to help us develop the Hamilton app.
Hamilton's Flutter app launched in the App Store and the Play Store 3 months after we wrote our first line of code. And we accomplished a ton. Fans can enter a daily lottery for a shot at $10 tickets, buy merchandise through an e-commerce experience, take selfie photos with the Ham Cam, and get daily news and updates.
We knew that this app needed to be rock solid, both in terms of performance and visual fidelity, and really represent the amazing experience that the Hamilton show itself provides. And ultimately, that's why we decided to use Flutter.
Flutter is a mobile UI toolkit that allows developers and designers to craft beautiful native experiences on iOS and Android, and is entirely free and open source.
We have very high expectations of quality for the apps that we build. We expect pixel-perfect results, and we need them to be very high performance. Flutter gave us a lot of opportunities that previously weren't available to us. The fact that it's a single code base drastically improved our ability to deliver a consistent experience across platforms. Its hot reload gives us an ability to build more features in less time.
It allowed me to make changes really fast and iterate through the UI without having to stop and restart the app. Coming from an iOS and Android background, it's something that I've been waiting for a long time. The Flutter developer community is very active. Drop-in packages helped us maximize productivity. It helped us integrate elements like Firebase and Cloud.
At the end of the day, we're just really happy that we found Flutter so that we can build these beautiful native interfaces for both iOS and Android from a single code base.
We were given a really tight timeline, and we turned the app around faster than I ever could have imagined. We were able to make changes right up to the night before we went live, and really feel confident about them. In fact, we pushed an entirely new feature to the App Store the day before we launched.
And since launch, Flutter's efficiency and speed has helped us to build new features, such as the recent trivia game. We're really excited because as the show continues to grow, we're going to be able to keep pace with a ton of new features that's going to make the app even better.
We couldn't be more thrilled with Flutter. It has enabled us to use one code base to deliver a truly high-quality app that Hamilton fans have absolutely fallen in love with.
We're thrilled with what Posse was able to deliver. The entire brand of Hamilton is about delivering on an experience for fans. They're thrilled about the new features that we're rolling out, and we're really excited to see where the app goes next.
All right, so, Hamilton was very happy with the results, and they have over 1 million installs, but even more impressively, they have over 500,000 monthly active users and over 160,000 daily active users. So people are consistently coming back to this app, and they love the experience. As you saw in the video, it was actually featured on both the iOS and Play stores. So that's just one example, though, and we have many other examples of Flutter apps.
Yeah, another great example of people using Flutter is Alibaba, perhaps the largest Chinese online retailer. And Alibaba started the process of adding Flutter to their existing app to power faster and more integrated, more visually beautiful experiences. In fact, they've just started rolling this app out. It's already over tens of millions of devices that are running Flutter already in China. And that's a great endorsement of the value of Flutter from a productivity, from an agility standpoint. They love the way that they can roll out changes and they can continue to adapt and adopt Flutter in different ways. Another example of using Flutter is internally within Google. We use Flutter for several of our largest applications, one of which is Google Ads. And our Google AdWords mobile app is itself written in Flutter. We've been able to take advantage of things like the charting controls, again, the rich enterprise capabilities. And Sridhar, who's the Senior Vice President for Google Ads, praises Flutter for its ability to bring our development teams together and deliver this native application experience for both platforms.
Yeah, and another example is more of an enterprise-type company, the AppTree, which is based in Portland, and they do apps for brands like McDonald's and Stanford University. And they actually also went with Flutter, and that allowed them to unify overnight their development teams and gain a lot more productivity. And they're incredibly happy with how Flutter has helped them go. And again, there are a few other examples. There's some for meditation. There's some in finance. Abbey Road Studios has an app for their musicians. So clearly, there's a lot of examples, but a lot of them are benefiting from different parts of Flutter.
So you might be wondering, how do I get started with Flutter? What do I need to do? Well, we've got you covered on a variety of different levels. Firstly, in terms of the platform integration, we've got deep support for things like ads, for Firebase, for analytics, for cloud integration, for the material design, look and feel. We've also got support for you as partners. We want to work with you on your Flutter apps, and we have teams from developer and design relations. We have technical support with communities of experts that can help you through any issues you have. And of course, we want to be a partner with you for co-marketing when you build a Flutter app. We want to be able to tell the world about the value you're getting out of your Flutter application. So how do you go about using Flutter today in your own applications? Well, a number of different choices available to you. Firstly, of course, if you're building a brand new application, you could start with Flutter. It's a great environment to be able to deliver that solution for you. Secondly, maybe you want to prototype an idea and you want to get familiar with Flutter through an idea. Well, we've got a great solution to help you start to test out concepts and get them to market to evaluate very quickly. Thirdly, perhaps you've already got an application for one or the other platform and you want to take it to the other place. Well, again, Flutter can help you out there. We can help you get your code to the other side of the platform and then maybe over time unify around a single Flutter application. And lastly, of course, you can add Flutter into an existing application, and that's a great way, as the likes of Alibaba have shown, to be able to grow and extend their application to take advantage of some of the benefits of Flutter. So where can you go for more information? You can come to our website, flutter.io. That's our place where we've got all the code labs, all the information for your engineering teams to be able to get up and running. Of course, you can also email us at flutter@google.com. And if you're here at the event, we've got a booth here at the Sandbox, and we'd love to see you there as well. So thank you very much. We hope you use Flutter in your applications. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.